So let's start with the Softdial repository. From the beginning, so first set of options is media type. So this media type is used in queue configuration. So later we will be reviewing queue configuration. I will mention about those options. Different session types, so chat sessions, voice sessions, they will be recognizing only the queues with correct media type. If you create a chat queue but the media type will be voice, your chat session will not be able to see that queue. And one more configuration, which is timescale. So this is just SLA. Different session types have different SLAs and expectations to when the session can or should be answered. Chat, for example, we are expecting reply or the session to be accepted by the chat queue within a couple of minutes. But when it comes to email, for example, those sessions can wait hours and customer doesn't get upset. With voice sessions, expectation is it will be answered within seconds or minutes rather than hours. But depending on the media type, we will have different time scales, so different SLAs. Dialing cycle outcomes. Those are disposition codes. So we use different definitions to describe these. For example, switch outcomes, dialing cycle outcomes, disposition codes. Basically what they are, those are outcomes from the call session output. So you can see that we have something like busy, connected. So when it comes to voice sessions, we have different telephony outcomes like no answer, busy, unobtainable, out of order, fax machine, answering machine. So those are outcomes that, for example, calls are failing with in the STG. And on top of that, we have connected outcomes as well. And those connected outcomes are mapped from the agent outcomes. So once call is connected, then agent can assign a disposition code giving more details about what happened to the session. For example, if it was sales, commitment, or if customer was angry, agent can assign an outcome, specific outcome telling that, and then that outcome is mapped to relevant dialing cycle outcome, so general disposition code. And actually both of these, dialing cycle outcomes and agent outcomes, are used mainly for reporting purposes. To see what happened with the call. If the call failed in telephony, also how many calls of, for example, fast busy we have. So that might indicate there was an issue with the network. And those they are used not only for reporting, but for the dialer's calculation. So it's also important to get it right. And if you create your own custom outcomes, so firstly, agent outcomes that are then mapped to dialing cycle outcomes, you need to use correct outcome categories. And I will just show you what outcome category is. So I'm talking about these settings here, because those outcome categories are something you cannot override. You don't have access to this configuration. You can only map your switch outcomes to these outcome categories, but those outcome categories are something that dialer uses for simulation, for predictive simulation on outbound campaign especially. It's not as important on inbound for the dialer. Yeah, so those outcome categories, if it's a live call, for example, you keep it as live call. If it's busy, you assign correct outcome category. So let's say we have agent, we have dialer somewhere here. So firstly, dialer can make a call and this call can fail. So let's say dialer makes outbound call and that call fails. So STG or telephony in this case, because the call fails in actually telephony, it assigns some outcome and returns outcome to the dialer. Yeah, and this is dialing cycle outcome. So the configuration we were looking at. But if, let's say, we have another scenario where we make a call and this call is connected to the agent. So it doesn't fail in telephony, but at the end it goes to the agent. So in that case, agent firstly can assign agent outcome, then this outcome is mapped to dialing cycle outcome and goes back to the dialer. But at the end, what reaches the dialer is dialing cycle outcome, and this is used for predictive simulation for the outbound dialing. So for example, customer angry. Yeah, someone got a customer upset. Then you can select whether it's only outbound or also inbound setting. And then outcome category will be either other, because you are not sure what it is, or better to assign live call, because this is what matters for the dialer, this thing here. But for your reports, in your reports, you will be seeing this. So about outcome category, you need to make it right. Whatever it is, if call failed, you will have also some relevant outcome category, like answering machine, modem, no answer, busy. But when the call was connected, you would rather use live call. This is aggregated to calculate live call rate based on that. Yeah, so you can create your own outcome here. 110 switch outcome has been assigned, and now when the call is actually connected to the agent can't really use dialing cycle outcome directly. Agent can map his outcome from here. You will create another one with the same name or the similar name, and then you can map this agent outcome to the outcome you created there in here. Yeah, so we already have customer angry switch outcome, and then from script or from session control bar in agent desktop, agent can select this specific outcome, and it will be mapped to a particular switch outcome, dialing cycle outcome, and then outcome category. But just one mention, we will be looking at a repository from tenant perspective. So from your customer's perspective. This console in here is more for you to manage other tenants. Yeah, once again. So this list that you are seeing in here, it's not directly used by the tenants. So think about it as a template for a new tenant. So when you create a new tenant, this list in here will be used to provision that new tenant. So you can customize it, and then while creating new tenants, you will be applying this configuration to all the tenants, and then on a tenant level you can customize it specifically individually for each and every tenant. But this list in here is used only as a template. So moving forward, another tab is users configuration, and in here you can configure the users that will have an access to the landlord tenant only. So those administration users. And there is nothing much to configure in here. When you create a user, you just need to assign a unique name and password, of course, and you can also assign description, but it's not really used this anywhere else other than accessing this tenant management console and this configuration in here. But this is the user that you access this web client with. Inbound routes, This configuration here applies only to inbound campaigns. So those are incoming call routes, but you can think about them as inbound routes, and then inbound email, inbound chat, or inbound voice. At the moment, this configuration, it's quite telephony oriented. It tells about CLI and DNIS. So when talking about telephony, CLI is basically the originating telephone number, and DNIS is destination. So CLI is the customer's number if someone is dialing in, but those two fields in here, they work not only for voice sessions, so not only for telephone numbers, but also for chat. When it comes to chat, you can use that configuration here to specify a queue. DNIS will be queue name. And CLI, it's also possible to route the chat session based on the username. So whoever is initiating the session, we can capture that information, and based on that information, whether, for example, first name and the surname, we can use that to route the session to a specific tenant. So this is the tenant. So based on where session originates from and where session goes to, we can route the call to specific tenant. So this is like tenant distribution of incoming inbound sessions.